I'm gonna definitely need you and E to break down some of
Yeah,
these characters for me
yeah,
because I
that's what happened.
recognize a good amount of them,
Hmm.
but you know,
Are you saying you're not a real fan, Jelani?
I know I'm a filthy casual.
No. Welcome back to the Cool Comic Show. I
Ain't
am one of
no
your hosts,
way.
Damien, and with me today is Jelani Hendrix, aka Jelani Carter, aka Young Jay the God. And
Hmm.
today we are here with some very exciting, not even, well, we don't have the news, to talk about some exciting news. It's
Yeah.
finally the day that DC Studios' new slate of properties got announced last month in December. I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, but somewhere James Gunn came out and said, I'm going to announce the DC stuff next month, meaning January.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so throughout the entire month, everyone was like, when's it going to be? I assumed it was going to be late January. And then as the days were going on, everyone was like, oh, he's going to do it on the last day of the month. So
Hmm.
we're finally
Which is a
here.
very James thing to do,
Yeah, we're
honestly.
finally here. I'm very excited. There's a lot to talk about, so we're gonna get right into this. A few of these
Hmm.
things that we talk about are gonna be we're gonna cover more into in a later video when we get Galactic Mr. E back in here with us. He's not available to join us today. He's doing some moving stuff, but I do have some
Hmm.
notes that he gave us about some of his thoughts, so we'll cover that. But I don't want to waste
Nice.
a lot of time. Let's go into these first couple of things. So I do want to say right now it's around 2 o'clock Pacific time, so it's been about 5 hours since the slate got announced. And boy, there has been a lot of discussion
Hmm.
online about this. There's a couple of misconceptions or misunderstandings I saw online that people had. The first one is a lot of people, I guess they just didn't watch the video.
Hmm.
He said that this is only part of chapter one, it's not the entirety of chapter one.
Hmm.
Some people thought it was going to be the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I assume the rest of it we're going to get announced at Comic Con this year in
Hmm.
July. So we'll definitely do another stream for that. Last year we did it when it was me and E. It was a lot of fun. So we'll get the three of us this year, and
That's gonna
that
be
was a
dope.
crazy time. Yeah. The other one is in regards to the Batman movie, which we'll talk about when we get there. But um, I'm gonna put up. I don't have it right now, but I'll put it up in the edit the video. Someone put together a timeline. Actually, I'm gonna show you, Jelani.
Okay.
Um, Someone put together a timeline of the one, yeah, of all the announcements. I think it's easy to
Okay.
kind of just look at it that way. But
Oh, nice. Okay, this is
we're gonna go
perfect.
through the list. I'm also gonna go through the article to talk about some of the things they said.
Hmm.
So let's see here. I'm just gonna go through all of them. So the interesting thing in that video is he talked about how the movies that are coming out this year are going to be playing into the DCU. So
Hmm.
E and I have been talking about it for a while that this Flash movie has been kind of been cursed for a bit.
You think?
If you think back to the beginning, I don't know if a lot of people remember this Flash movie was supposed to get made years ago. It's gone through like six different directors and
Hmm.
writers, and some people wanted Flashpoint, some people didn't want Flashpoint. Whatever the case is, it's finally coming out. But before that, we have Shazam coming out.
Yeah.
And Jelani, I don't know if you've seen the recent trailer. I
I I did.
It's a very poorly made trailer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And in that trailer, they used Drake throughout it.
Yes,
So you know
and
how I feel about Drake,
yeah,
and even Drake couldn't save that.
and
It's unfortunate because that first Shazam movie is pretty
yeah,
good. It's like a
mm,
hidden gem out of the
hmm,
DC extended universe. So
yeah,
I I don't want to say I have high hopes. I think I'm gonna enjoy the second
yeah.
one, but I think the trailers are not really doing it justice too
And
much.
oh, I see what you did there because they're from
You
the
know?
Legion of Doom. So I think the same thing kind of happened with the first Shazam movie where the trailers just weren't great for it. Like I think,
Hmm.
and there's been a bunch of video essays and analysis about it, but there's a certain way to make trailers to like get emotion out of people.
Hmm.
And I'm not the kind of person to be like follow the template whatever, but I think these even the first trailer for Shazam 2, it
Hmm.
just the way the trailers were edited just weren't done well. And this most recent one was just definitely not.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be the next thing coming out. That comes out in March, April,
Yeah, I know it's definitely soon because I'm
something
seeing
like
like
that.
TV trailers for it now.
Yeah. Um, they said that, or James Gunn said that Shazam's kind of been on his own anyways, doing his
Hmm.
own thing.
Hmm.
So throughout this whole announcement, he made it seem, or I think they actually came out and said like they left the door open for the old actors to kind of come back, but I think that's just gonna make things more confusing. I think like they really
Yeah,
should just
I
have this hard
mean,
reset and
Yeah, I think my perspective when it comes to that, because in the video he definitely blatantly said that like the Flash movie is going to reset the
Yeah,
DCEU and then
that
like bring
yeah, that'll
in
be the
this
next
new
one. Yeah.
era. I mean,
But then he
you
also
know,
says so like so that goes to the rest of the year. So I was gonna say so go Shazam, and
yeah,
then he says go into Flash, and he said Flash is gonna reset the entire DC universe. I'm like, all right, cool, that makes sense. I get
yeah,
it. If
yeah,
that's whatever you want to do. But then he was
mm-hmm,
like, all right, well, Blue Beetle's coming out in August, which I'm excited for,
mm-hmm,
and he indicated that Blue Beetle's also gonna be part of it. And then he goes, Aquaman 2 comes out in December, and that's still
mm-hmm,
gonna be part of this whole thing. I understand that those movies were already made by the time he came in, so they kind of just have
yeah,
to come out.
yeah,
Um,
and those actors are not problematic like
yeah, exactly.
Ezra Miller.
So I think like there's in terms of the movies coming out this year, I think they're kind of just gonna come out and they're gonna kind of see how they're gonna do, like in terms of
Mm-hmm.
box office, and kind of take it from there.
I think that's their best bet as well.
Yeah.
And then like, all because the Flashpoint movie or allegedly the Flashpoint movie is going to reset everything
Mhm.
doesn't mean like you can't bring those characters in, and
Yeah.
then business wise doesn't mean you can't bring those actors back. So
Yeah.
you'll probably see a version of this character or this actor when these original movies come out, and then when
Mhm.
they're fully introduced in the DCEU, they might have a bit of a personality change
Yeah.
or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's like a good out to have where like they can pick and choose what they want to bring back, but if it doesn't work out, then it's like, hey, we said it's a new universe, so
Yeah.
these people
Exactly.
might look different, you know.
Yeah. So in
So
terms of these
that's
movies coming out
that's what
this
I
year,
felt he meant
yeah,
by
like
all
I'm
that.
gonna go watch all of them just because I'm a slut for DC, but I
Same.
think I'm most looking forward to Blue Beetle because shout out to my boy. But I think Aquaman 2 should be a lot of fun.
The first one
Shazam,
was a lot of fun too.
yeah, Shazam I'm gonna go watch, but the way that these trailers are like portraying the movie, it's rough. And we're supposed to get a Flash trailer during the Super Bowl next week, so
Oh, okay, cool.
we'll see how these movies go. But after he went through all that, then he was like, okay, let's talk about the stuff he's working on. And again, I'll put this graphic up on the timeline. Shout out to comicbook.com. Brandon Davis made it was in his video. He put the timeline together, but I'll put it on screen so you guys can see.
Nice.
But the first project he announced, we already knew he was making a Superman movie, but then he announced Creature Commandos. So,
So I'm not familiar with this story or these characters, but this looks rad as fuck.
so the interesting thing about this, and the more I thought about it, because like I said, it's been about 5 hours since the announcement came out.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, and this might just be my Zatanna biased mind, all these projects he announced that are after these movies that are coming out this year that were already made before him. The first one that he had talked about is Creature Commandos. The last one he talked about was Swamp Thing. Both of those have ties to Zatanna in the terms of Justice League Dark because the Creature Commandos do like work with Justice League Dark sometimes and that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool.
But Creature Commandos is like I don't even know much about it. It's like a group of like, not even fairy tale monsters, but like obviously Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they're essentially just like a group of quote unquote heroes kind of thing, and they're in the DC universe basically.
Okay. Okay.
He said it's a TV show, it's animated. That it sounds like fun. However, I feel like again, just because he even mentioned the video, like the DC universe has been very disconnected with movies and shows. He mentioned games, which we'll talk about later, because I feel like games it's a hard thing to tie that in. But
Yeah.
I think, we don't know when this thing's gonna come out, but I'm excited for this project. But I think that would fit more into like maybe the back part of chapter one, or maybe into the next chapter. Just because I feel like, and it's gonna kind of go through a reoccurring theme through all this. It would be nice to kind of have some staple characters that people know to build off of. But I'm not against this property, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
think
just like a
maybe
weird
he'll
thing to start off
probably.
your whole announcement with, of like, here's an animated show of these characters that know most people, like 99% of the people, and of course people are going to say Guardians, and that he made Guardians thing, and that's cool. But the Guardians was like what, phase 2 or 3 or something like that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he might be using this as a vehicle to introduce different concepts or villains or whatever heroes to like connect to the larger, like you said, like it could be vehicles to introduce like Justice League Dark, and we may get Zatanna, which I would love. Or
Like I said, which I'm
Constantine or
cool
whatever.
with. Like it all depends on when these come out. I'm not against the project. I think in terms of the announcements, I think just order wise could have been different, but I think it looks cool. It's
Yeah.
like I said, they're unknown teams, so he can really do whatever he wants in terms of how they're portrayed. He says animated series. I think it's like 7 episodes. Someone reported somewhere. So maybe that'll come out next year.
Yeah, and that would be cool because I mean, he said that everything is going to be connected: the games, the TV
Yeah.
shows, the animated stuff, the live action
Yeah.
stuff. So
I
and it
was-
could and have the same actors voicing each
Yeah,
too.
I guess we could talk about the games real quick. The thing with video games is video games take a long time to make, like a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fine just letting the games be on their own. They don't have to be connected. I don't think people wanted games to be connected. I think it just causes a lot of logistical issues. But I don't know. We'll see. I think with this entire thing, I'm optimistic. We'll kind of see how it works out.
Yeah.
I'm getting flashbacks to like 2014 when we got that 10-year plan, and then none of that ever came out. But
Yeah,
I hope
yeah.
everything comes out and goes well. So that's
me
the
too.
first thing he talked about is Creature Commandos. Again, they're an unknown team. So we'll kind of see. I assume maybe at Comic-Con, since he said he already wrote all the episodes, maybe we'll get more. We have that one key art they gave us. Maybe we'll get like casting announcement or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
That man has been working, because I can't
yeah.
believe, like, throughout that announcement, he was saying, like, yeah, and I'm working on this, and I'm writing
Yeah.
this, and I'm like, what the hell, dog? I know
Yeah,
your hair was
exactly.
white before this, but goddamn.
So that's Creature Commandos. The next one he talked about was Waller. So I liked Viola Davis's Waller. I thought she was great. We all talk. You guys know that I've been watching this channel for a while. How I feel about Peacemaker in terms of the existence of it. But I know people like the show. But yeah, they said it's going to be a spinoff of Peacemaker.
Yeah.
It is being written by the person who wrote Watchmen, the HBO series. I don't know if you watched it, Jelani, but that show is
did.
lit.
It's
It's
fantastic.
so good.
Absolutely love that show. So
And
I think
also,
this series is going to be in good hands.
yeah, it's also going to be the creator of the Doom Patrol TV show, which we haven't talked about it yet on this channel yet because we have our stuff
Yeah.
coming. But Doom Patrol got canceled. It's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
so that's good people behind, making the show. So I'll check it out. We'll kind of see. But those are the first two things. I don't know if those are going to be coming out before this next thing, which he said in the video. This is our first, what do you call it? Like the actual kickoff, which is Superman Legacy. So we knew this was coming. We knew this was going to be the first thing. This was the only thing that got a release date, which he said was July 11th.
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
It's not too far away. I didn't expect anything to come out next year movie wise. I would assume, and as we go through each of these, I'm going to talk about what I assume will happen at our Comic-Con. So I assume at this Comic-Con, we're probably going to get, actually, I don't know if we're going to get casting or not.
I don't know.
I assume they're going to have to start filming it maybe at the end of this year.
Yeah. Definitely some key art. Definitely some. There's definitely going to be more information.
Yeah.
Casting would be lit, and that
Yeah,
would definitely break the internet in lack of better terms.
And I think that I assume that he's going to take inspiration from Superman, All-Star Superman, which if you guys haven't read it, it's basically I guess it's a collection of short stories, but they're kind of all together. It's basically, spoiler alert, and I doubt they're going to adapt it 1-to-1. Superman kind of like absorbs too much like solar energy, so he's dying basically.
Yeah, he gets like Kryptonian cancer, pretty much.
Yeah, so he's kind of going through all these things to Earth and helping people and everything. That's a very good story. People always put at the top of their best Superman stories. So
I believe I watched the animated version.
Yeah, there's
of that.
animated ones. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he did say though, what was the actual words? He said something about like, oh yeah, here it is. He says he is kindness in a world that thinks that kindness is old-fashioned. I think this is it's a very perfect way of detailing how people in real world view Superman now, and why this evil Superman trope has been popular the last few years, and that a lot of people think like, oh, Superman is too much of a Boy Scout, or he's too perfect or whatever, which he isn't. But I think that's what makes Superman interesting to me, because he's this all-powerful alien from another planet, but his humanity is what makes him who he is. He did mention before it's not going to be like a origin story specifically. It'll just be early on in his plan. So I'm excited for that. Everyone knew this was coming, so I think we're just waiting
Hearing
now
you
for
describe it like that gives me thoughts about later on an announcement when we talk about Supergirl.
Yes.
But I'll get to my thoughts when we get there.
That'll come out. So I assume casting the Comic-Con this year, maybe just more info overall, maybe a director, because I know they said that he's writing it, and they I think the producer wants him to direct it, but Art doesn't want to direct it because he's not going to oversee the whole thing. But that's coming out.
Yeah.
The next thing, which I'm very excited for, if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, Mr. E is excited for. I'm gonna, like I said, at the end of this video, I got a bunch of notes from him, and you'll see. But the next one is Lanterns. So Green
Cannot
Lanterns
wait.
is that 2011 movie really put a damper on how people viewed Green Lantern, because it was like poison, and no one wanted to make anything Green Lantern related after.
Even Ryan Reynolds roasted
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. But there was that Lantern show that they were gonna make. They announced it a couple years ago, and then so they've canceled that, and they're making a brand new one. This one will be focused on Hal Jordan and John Stewart, which
Let's go.
I think is a good way to go about it, because there's a lot of people that love Hal. There's a lot of people that love John. John is my favorite Green Lantern.
Mine too.
So I think it's good to put them together. I know some people wanted them to be in a movie because Green Lantern just as a character needs a lot of effects and budget and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people who have seen HBO shows before, they know that they do put a lot of budget in those kind of things. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
I think just looking at the online or the internet's reaction to a lot of these things are like, kind of the people that are being negative are being negative just to be negative. I don't know why. They did say it's going to be terrestrial based, which means it'll be like based on Earth. So obviously they're saving some, big space stuff for later. And I assume that they're going to transfer these characters like 2 movies later on. They're kind of just kicking them off in TV, which I'm fine with.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be.
And I think that's cool because, I mean, for me, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this before in like a bunch of our reaction videos. Like, I think a TV show is perfect, especially for these characters, because I think both of their origin stories and how they view their job are pretty different and complex. And it gives you more time to actually be acclimated to the characters. It's like the first time they're going to be on the big screen in a long time. Well, not the big screen, but like in this type of capacity in a while, outside of like a TV, like an animated series. So I think it will work out perfectly. I think this is like the best route for these characters.
So I'm looking forward to it. Again, we don't have any release dates, so I would say at Comic-Con, we probably don't even get anything for this. Maybe release date, but that's it. So the next one is The Authority. So
another group of characters that I'm not familiar with, but look awesome.
So this is actually funny timing. So I put a tweet up the other day that I got a big shipment of books in, and one of those books is Midnighter, the complete collection.
Oh, nice.
He is one of the members of the Authority. So the Authority are they were like under a different imprint. They were like under DC's imprint, like in the 90s, and they brought them in. But they're basically, to put it simply, I think I haven't read this yet, but from what I know, the Authority, they're a group of superheroes. Like, they're inherently good people, but they go about it in extreme ways. Like, they'll assassinate like a president of a state, or like they'll blow up a country or something like that.
Oh shit.
But the interesting part about it is there's 2 characters that are very that stand out to a lot of people in this, which is Midnighter is one of them, and his husband Apollo, because they were one of the first like prominent gay couples in comics.
Oh, sick. Okay, cool.
So I'm looking forward to that. I know Ian, his notes, he mentioned that he's looking forward to it. So that's The Authority. With that movie, I assume they're going to be setting up to a Superman versus the Elite kind of thing, because the Authority and the Elite kind of are similar, and they have some connections in the comics. But basically, like, the Elite, they're like a group of people who kind of challenge Superman in the same way the Authority is, and like they're saving the world, but they're like doing it by killing people, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a good story to have with Superman, because it's a good way to highlight why Superman is the character that he is, and like not killing, and how good he is, and that kind of stuff. And how, and with the Authority and with the Elite, they kind of like are telling Superman like, hey, you can't do it the old way. You can't just lock them up and expect them to change, and you live in a dream world. And there's a very famous line that Superman has in the comics. This is specifically with the Elite, where he's talking about, he's like,
if you think I'll just go to jail and rot, you're living in a dream world.
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.
it's a whole very good thing. So I think the Authority, this is going to set up for them to run into Superman later on. But overall, it's definitely a lesser known property. This would be the second movie. Yeah, this is the second movie, because it'd be Superman then the Authority. So I'd be curious what kind of connections will be in that movie, if at all, to like the rest of the universe. But
yeah,
at Comic-Con, I would assume we get a release date for this, because it's the second movie. So, or at least the second movie they talked about, but who knows? Next up is Paradise Lost, and I'm conflicted on this one. But before I get into are you looking forward to this one? Are you excited for this one?
It's another thing that I'm not really familiar with.
So yeah, it's going to be basically about like, Paradise Island, Wonder, Themyscira.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, definitely excited for that. I forgot that he said in the video that
Yeah.
it's like another name for Themyscira. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, it's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I'm super down.
So I'm
You know how I
excited
feel
for
about
it
strong women
because
with
it's
swords.
I'm excited for it because it's Paradise Island, but it's not going to have Wonder Woman. He said it's going to take place before she's born. This was another misconception that I saw reporting. People thought the way it was being reported is they were saying, "Oh, this takes place before the Wonder Woman films," which he didn't say that. He said it takes place before she was born. This is obviously a different Wonder Woman kind of thing.
Yeah.
He mentioned that it's going to be like a Game of Thrones style like drama, which I know people love Game of Thrones. I never got into it myself, but I can see how it would work for the Amazons.
Yeah.
I think that'll
yeah.
be
Definitely.
fun. I think it'll
Yeah.
be
I think
cool.
it'll be really cool. And then like also like those class of people are just interesting in general, and I feel like
Yeah.
you can tell some like really cool stories. And then I mean, who's to say that they won't drop little hints that you might recognize from
Yeah.
from Wonder Woman's story. So I think it'll be fine.
And what I hope with this is, I hope this takes some kind of things that happen in one of my favorite books from 2022. If you guys watched the video, Wonder Woman Historia, because that entire book is about how the Amazons came to be. This was all, and it ended with Diana being born. And so hopefully it takes some inspiration from that. And I'll say this too, also as a side note, there was multiple times during this announcement where he talked about specific comic books, which I thought was great, because people need to remember, like, hey, there is a source material for all this stuff. All these stories come from somewhere. So him talking about the Superman movie, him talking about Paradise Lost, well, I assume that would be taking inspiration from Historia. The next couple projects he'll talk about as well, like he did call out specific comics. They were using images from specific comics and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's great. I hope they continue to advertise. Like, I don't know if you notice at the end of trailers, they'll put like, read the stories here, and they'll give you like a couple of books recommended. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. Again, I don't know when that'll come out, but HBO Max with the Game of Thrones style, everyone's gonna love that. So now the next one, and this is a big discussion. I think this is one of the biggest that's happening to all this, is The Brave and the Bold, his Batman
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So based on what he was saying, what do you think about it?
I think it's gonna be cool. I mean, because I believe during that segment of the video, he was talking about how like Matt Reeves and the other Joker
one.
movie are gonna
Yeah.
be like named as Elseworld films,
Yeah.
and like this Brave and the Bold is gonna be like a proper, I guess, introduction to like the CEU. I think that's fine. And all the time, and I mean, my familiarity with that version of Batman, or at least like these kind of stories, is from the animated series, and I
Yeah.
thought that was a lot of fun. So I don't see a problem with this. I mean, I don't think he's gonna be like a particularly fun Batman, because Batman's always like dark and brooding. But I think I like this concept. I think it's gonna be dope.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, just because it's Batman in general, and I've mentioned this a lot of times before. Being a fan of DC, you're kind of just a fan of Batman by default.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about your favorite characters, you kind of have to put Batman and the entire family in a separate tier.
But I think it's gonna be interesting. I'm remembering this now. He was talking about how his favorite Robin is Damian. Damian is a bit of a divisive Robin.
Yes.
Robin. I'm kind of excited to see how that works out. I need Daddy Batman. I need hopefully they introduce like Dick into
Yeah, so that was gonna be what I'm gonna get into. So
you think it's gonna be that version of like Dick as Batman and Damian?
So a big discussion on this. One, the funny thing about it is the images that they're using and the run that he was specifically talking about, Grant Morrison's run. Spoiler alert, is when Dick Grayson is Batman.
Okay.
Like the picture they use, that's Dick under the mask.
Yeah.
So it's that part was funny. Again, I don't know how they're gonna do 1-to-1. That's obviously how they're gonna do it. But the big discussion I'm seeing on this is a lot of people are very concerned because people are assuming that based on the announcement, that means that Damian is the first Robin and no other Robins exist. And I'm like, I don't think that's what it is. Like,
no.
Based on the way he was saying it, and you like Damian, obviously there's other Robins before him. Like, for those who don't know, if you're not too familiar with the Robins, the most famous one you're probably familiar with is Dick Grayson. He was the one like in the 90s movies. He's like in the Teen Titans show. the old animated show. That was Dick Grayson, who grows up to become Nightwing.
Yeah, Dick
There was a
Grayson and Tim Drake, I think, are probably the two most well-known Robins.
The second one was Jason Todd. He was similar to Dick in the beginning, but then he ended up dying, and he came back as Red Hood. Some of you may have heard of Red Hood. The third one was Tim Drake. He was Red Robin for a bit, but he's like a smarter one. Damien's technically the fifth one because Stephanie, Tim's old girlfriend, was Robin for a little bit, but Damien is the fourth one in most people's eyes, and he's Batman's son. So I think when he was announcing this, I think James Gunn understands, like, you can't make a story that Damien is the first Robin ever. Like, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And so people were concerned with that. So it's just funny seeing people online being like, it sucks that, Dick is going to be, skipped over again. And like, I don't think he's going to be skipped completely. Obviously, Damien's going to be later on, but it does kind of suck that we're not going to see those Robins like in their day as Robin. But I think it kind of works because I don't think starting with Dick would also be good either, because there's so many stories that come after him. So maybe like a middle ground, if they would have started like with Jason, like Under the Red Hood, like the animated movie, where you can kind of have like Dick and Jason in the same movie, and then maybe the sequel they could have had Tim and Damien. I don't know, but I assume we're gonna get the other Robins in the movie. Like, it's not gonna be Batman's coming. It's gonna be like the start of the movie, like, Alfred, I need a Robin, and then he just has a son. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, if it does turn out to be Dick is Batman and Damien is Robin, I think that's interesting, because this is going to be like our first time having like a Batman introduced, and it's not Bruce.
And it's a good way to differentiate from Matt Reeves' Batman.
That's exactly what I was going to say after. Like, we have a Bruce, and a Bruce that is just starting out and finding himself, and he's badass and beating people up and, working on his skills and everything. Like, we have that version of Batman already existing. That's fantastic. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I think it's
going to be fine. Like, again, we don't know all the details. People are just jumping to conclusions, but I would say,
there are Damien stories where Bruce is around, and
spoiler alert, he does come back to being Batman, and goes from there. But I would say 99% sure that Damien is not going to be the very first Robin he ever had when this movie comes out. Like, I'm sure Damien's going to be running around in Jason and Tim. Like, I'm sure it'll be there. Yeah, so I think it'll be cool. And they're coming out in the same year. Like, I don't think they had a release date, but I think they said, oh no, this was Batman Part 2 I'm thinking about. Batman Part 2, the other one, that one's coming out in the same year as Superman. So that's a Brave and the Bold. Which actually, here's the next thing they talked about, the Batman sequel. Like Jelani mentioned, that'll be in its Elseworld. It'll be in its own thing, which is totally fine.
Elseworld and Joker, Folly You Do are going to be Elseworld.
So Batman's going to come on October 3rd, 2025. So that's perfect because it's Halloween time-ish. So that'll be the vibe.
Yeah.
The next one, which I'm very excited for, is Booster Gold. So do you know a lot about Booster Gold or anything like that?
A little bit, yeah. I know. I mean, I'm excited to see him just because I think his story is very interesting and it's so bonkers, and I need some funny, flawed asshole characters, like likable asshole characters in the DCU. Like, everybody's either super Boy Scout or dark, maybe a little bit in the middle, but it's like pretty clear who are the heroes and who are the villains. I'm down for a nice little gray area. I mean, he is a hero.
But he's like,
how he goes about it, it's a little douchey.
And I think that's why a lot of people like Booster Gold, is like, he is cocky and confident, but it's obviously on for show. Like, he is very insecure with himself. That's the whole reason why he went back to the past, because he was kind of a loser in his current time.
And Blue Beetle's gonna be around, so
Yeah. So what I'm thinking also too, I don't know if this will happen, but in my dream scenario is somewhere down the line in chapter 4 or 5, I don't know how many chapters are gonna be. We get a Justice League International movie or series, and for those of you that are unfamiliar, there was actually, I have the book back here. There was a book of comics that came out late 80s, early 90s called Justice League International. And basically the main, quote unquote, main members you all know and love from Justice League are unavailable. And so this new team forms called Justice League International, where it has like Batman, of course, but it has Booster Gold, it has Blue Beetle, it has Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Shazam, Fire and Ice, Power Girl. It's a very fun Justice League, and it's because it's lesser known characters, they're able to kind of explore more of like them their character themselves. Does that make sense? Like their character growth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's like a future. Like I don't think that's something I would do anytime soon. But Booster Gold is a big part of that. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a TV series. I know there was reports that they said there was an actor they were talking to, but they haven't confirmed it. I don't know. So maybe at Comic-Con we get a casting announcement for that. That'd be cool. The next one, which I'm very excited for, is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Hell fucking yeah. And this is what I was going to say earlier. Sorry to cut you off, but this is what I was going to say earlier.
I need to find my Supergirl comic. Keep talking.
All right, cool. I am excited because with the super Boy Scoutness of Superman, this story I'm pretty sure James said that this movie or TV show, I'm not sure which, I think it's a movie, it's going to be based off of the Tom King story of the same name. And this version of Supergirl is jaded and flawed and powerful and badass. The story is freaking gorgeous. It's a bonkers story. It's basically Supergirl. I forgot which birthday it is. I'm gonna say her 21st birthday, right? Yeah. She is drunk, crash lands on the planet, tries to get back home, but she can't. And she runs into a girl who asks her like, "Hey, my dad just got killed by this bounty hunter. I heard you're one of the most powerful people in the universe. Can you help me track them down?" And she does, but she winds up kind of losing, you know what I mean? And her and the girl, I don't want to like ruin like the reason why she goes on the trip, but pretty much her and the girl kind of go across the cosmos to track down this bounty hunter, and it's told from the perspective of the little girl that she links up with, and it's just great. It's just a really good story. I mean, I got put onto it by Damien.
Yeah, so I was trying to find my comic. I don't know where it's at in my room. Oh, I see it over there. It's near the bottom. But yes.
Yeah. It is such a badass. It's gonna be so badass.
Like
if they do it properly, it's gonna be badass.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm glad that in this whole announcement he's referencing specific books. But this specific project is like one. He's not 1-to-1, but he's saying like, oh, this is straight up coming from that book. Like it's not inspired by this is that book.
Which is totally fine by me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's that one along with Wonder Woman Historia is one of my top books from last year. If you haven't already, go ahead and read it. You can probably read it online for like $2 or $3. You can get the DC Universe app. You can go to your local comic store. It's a good book, and it's also, I think it's good because it kind of retells her origin a little bit while also like, you know, it keeps it true to the original, but it kind of modernizes it a bit. So I think it'll be a good time. The last one he talked about, is Swamp Thing. So it's funny. Green. Yeah, it's funny. A quick note about this. I think I was watching a video, whatever. Someone was like watching, like they were doing like a reaction to all this. And in the video, James Gunn he says, talking about Swamp Thing, and he goes, Swamp Thing is tonally different from the rest of the DCU, but that person misheard it, and they were like, they thought he said totally outside the DCU. Like, the way they took it. Okay. And that person was like, I'm so confused. Why are they doing this? And I'm like, you just misheard. Like, Swamp Thing's gonna be a horror film. Swamp Thing is cool. Man, I watched a little bit of the HBO or the DC Universe show back when it was DC Universe.
Oh, that's right. They did do that.
Yeah, when they canceled it before like the first episode aired or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
But this goes. I'll watch it because I'm excited to see Swamp Thing. But also my Zatanna bias is going to be hanging around in the background. Maybe we'll get. I don't know if we'll get a Zatanna cameo. Maybe a Constantine cameo at the end. That'd be cool. So that was everything on here. A couple of things I wanted to mention before we get into E's notes. So I mentioned this earlier. Overall I'm excited for this just because I'm a DC fan in general, and it seems that there is some kind of creativity going into these choices. But like I mentioned earlier, I think, and I don't know how to make movies, I don't know how to make TV shows, I'm not an executive, I don't know how all these things work. And again, all this is only some of the chapter that's announced, not all of it. But I think some of these things could have been pushed back to chapter 2, maybe. Specifically, Creature Commandos and even Waller. I feel like those would have been good in chapter 2 after we get some more mainstay characters in chapter 1.
Yeah.
Maybe even like Supergirl and Booster Gold could have like kicked off chapter 2. Again, I'm not against them. I'm looking forward to those, but especially if he's looking for a younger Superman, and then one of the next movies before you get a sequel, or I assume that you get a sequel, you're gonna get a Supergirl movie. It's kind of, I don't know. It's again, it may end up working out, but like Supergirl and Booster Gold would have been good movies to kick off Chapter 2, but we'll see what the rest of the chapter that gets announced at Comic-Con, I assume. But I don't know what's gonna happen with the Flash and Aquaman after this year. Like, I think he teased Aquaman 3 or something, but
yeah,
those are very prominent members of the league. Again, they don't have to. Like we just said, Justice League International, you can make a Justice League without certain mainstays, but some of the choices are just interesting, I'll say, the least. Even the Authority being the second movie that they talked about. Again, they may come out on Comic-Con and be like, well, you know, the Authority and Supergirl, Booster Gold, those aren't going to come out until 4 years from now, but here's a Wonder Woman movie, here's a second Superman movie, like before then. That may be the case.
Yeah.
They're just interesting choices, I feel like they made in here. So, but overall, I think I'm looking forward to it. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah. I think when it comes to this announcement, I feel like I think it was like a mixture of stuff that he's definitely excited about, stuff that he knows that the fans will be excited about, and it kind of it's like a good mix of both, because he could have just done the typical thing and just rattle off the names of the regular Justice League and like, we're getting all these movies, and you know what it is. I think it's cool that he's like mixing in,
doing something different,
like like the Creature Commandos and the Authority, even like Booster Gold. You know what I mean? Like, that's a character that fans love, but like I feel like for a long time we weren't really expecting anything to like happen with that character, and now he's, you know, getting his time to shine for real.
And that's why I think at Comic-Con there'll be like a big announcement of like, here's more info about like the big characters, quote unquote big characters. Like, here's more info about the Superman movie. Here's more info about the Batman movie. Here's what we're gonna do with Wonder Woman, because Paradise Lost is kind of still pre Wonder Woman a little bit. So I think at Comic-Con we'll get those big things, and today was just like, hey, here's our kind of overall vision. Here's the things we're willing to take a chance on.
It's like a cool little mix board to get everybody talking. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that was like the main goal of it, and I think he did a really good job when it comes to that.
Yeah. So with that, I want to get into E's notes here. So like I mentioned, E is very much a fan of Green Lantern. So I'm gonna go through each one. I guess I should have went through these as we go into them, but the first one, he said, these are all his words. He says, Superman is finally back. Hopefully he gets more than one movie this time. That's his first one, which, true, it's kind of crazy that we got 3 Guardians movie before we ever got a Man of Steel sequel, but here we are.
Yeah.
His next one, he says, Green fucking Lantern. He said, I'm so happy it didn't get scrapped. Sounds like they reworked it, which I'm thankful for. He says, I was not here to watch Guy Gardner as the main Lantern. Hal and John ready for the True Detective spin. E is very much a noted Guy Gardner hater. I don't necessarily hate Guy Gardner. I just kind of tolerate him. He's just there. But I know a lot of people love him. But Hal and John are definitely... John's my favorite, but Jessica Cruz is kind of taking up the thing.
Jessica Cruz is also really dope. I really enjoy her.
But obviously, to start off, you have to do Hal and John. Like, you kind of just have to. This next one, he goes, in all caps, I'm going to bust all over the Authority, is what he said. And then he goes on to say,
what?
He goes on to say, Midnighter and Apollo were my first mainstream gay comic icons, so I'm so fucking hyped to see them in live action. Again, I'm very excited for that. Like, I think with the Authority, it gives them a chance to explore it gives them a chance to introduce something that's going to clash with Superman in a way that it'll allow Superman to shine on his worldview and his humanity. So I think that'll be fun. The next thing he says is, Paradise Lost sounds so fucking lit. I'm so happy they actually do care about Wonder Woman. Hopefully we'll get a live action in Nubia somewhere down the line, which I think would be dope if we end up getting Nubia.
Ooh, that would be so tough.
Yeah, some people were
that would really get the people talking.
Yeah, some people were predicting that we would get Nubia in the show, but I don't know if she would be existing around that time. We'll kind of have to see how they do it in terms of time.
Because isn't Nubia technically? Well, I mean, was she created around the same time?
She's like her sister, kind of in a way. But
well, yeah, because she's like made from dark clay.
Yeah, so I think if it's like they do that, this is all pre Diana. This will be pre Nubia too. But hopefully we do get Nubia down the line. Because again, they got to find ways to
that would be so sick,
differentiate these. And I think the very best way is kind of how they're doing with Batman, and what I assume they might do with Wonder Woman is introduce the rest of the family of these characters, like. The Superman family, like we're gonna get Supergirl. The Bat family, like we haven't had the Bat family in like 20, 30 years maybe. Like this next one's kind of a longer one. He's talking about the Batman one. So he goes, Batman not starting from the very beginning is like a breath of fresh air. I'm so tired of seeing Martha's pearls on the ground. I like that Damian Wayne will be introduced as well because this has
Yeah.
big implications for the Bat family and the DCU as well.
Yeah.
This means Dick is already Nightwing. See, look, E knows. Like, E understands, like, okay, obviously Dick is already Nightwing. Tim Drake could be with the Titans. Jason Todd could already be back and could also be with the Outlaws. Like, that's perfect. Like, a lot of these people were like, oh my God, they're just erasing those other Robins. Like, no, they exist, obviously, you know?
Yeah. There's no way they couldn't have,
Yeah.
honestly.
He goes on to say, I think this was the biggest announcement because we just having Damian Wayne there means we are so far along in Batman's story already in this version of the DCU. And it really gives him a lot of leg room to flesh out so many other characters. I agree. I do think it's interesting that he said it's going to be a younger Superman, but this Batman's already going to have Damian, which I'm fine with. Like, Batman and Superman don't necessarily have to be the same age, but I do think it works out when they're like they see each other as peers more than like,
Yeah.
if Batman were to see him as like a lower him, which he doesn't, but
Yeah.
so I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But yeah, like E said, like it gives him a way to be like, okay, he's already been Batman. We don't need to see all the, you know, Martha's pearls falling for the 15th time. And the cool part of this too is this would indicate that we're going to get Talia and Ra's al Ghul again because of Damian. So, and I'll say this right now, Damian better not be a little white kid because he is not a little white kid.
Yeah, he is not.
The next one, he's talking about Booster Gold. He said Booster Gold in all caps, and he put exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. He says, fucking loser, LMFAO, but I'm curious if he will have any relation to Blue Beetle, since of course Booster Gold and Ted Kord, the original Blue Beetle, were besties. I assume that with this Blue Beetle movie coming out, since James Gunn said it's going to be kind of part of the DCU, maybe we'll get a Booster Gold tease or something. I don't know.
I would love for that to happen.
Yeah. So that's kind of what he thinks about that. So this next one, I'm going to disagree with Eon. He says Supergirl ... meh ... I don't know
what?
I don't know if E knows that this is taken directly from that comic. I don't know if he's read that comic, but I'm going to make him read it because he needs
Yes, please. Are you freaking kidding me? And also, Supergirl has always been one of the more interesting people in the Superman family than freaking Clark has ever been. Like, stop it. I
This
don't
next
wanna
one
hear
is
it, E.
this next one is in all caps. He says Swamp Thing. We better get a Justice League Dark and Baby Z better show up or I'm a, and then he says redacted. So we are
Agreed.
very big Magic Justice League Dark users, fans here. Hopefully we get Zatanna at some point.
I would cry. Would absolutely cry. Bawl my eyes out.
I need it. And then he goes on to talk about some of the things that are already coming out. So he says Shazam connecting to the Flash is cool. They are determined to. He said they are determined to put this Flash movie out at all costs to reset everything. And I believe we knew that with all the drama going on. And I think E and I talked about it before. Like, even with all this drama with Ezra Miller, I think given what the movie was going to do, they were still going to put this out. And then E goes, sounds like Blue Beetle and Aquaman are going to be the jumping off point for the new DCU, which is interesting. It is interesting. I mean, it's funny to think about. Aquaman was the only movie in the entire DCEU to make $1 billion. Like, that's Aquaman of all is kind of wild.
Well, you know, it's Jason Momoa, so that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
He also says excited for Blue Beetle and to see if that leads to more of the younger heroes popping up like Young Justice or Teen Titans in a grander scale, which I think is another way to differentiate this universe, because in all the DC movies they've always seemed to ignore the younger characters, which is
Dude,
one of the biggest parts of DC that I love is the legacy characters. And
if we
all
get
the kids.
Calderon in this mainstream DCEU,
Him being
I will,
Aquaman, dude.
oh my god, I would lose my shit.
Yeah. And then he goes, I'm interested to see how Aquaman 2 will relate to both pre and post the Flash reset. That will be interesting because Aquaman 2 is going to be the last like movie in this old universe. So I don't know. We'll see. And then he goes, his last two notes, he put in all caps, who the fuck is Creature Commandos? Which, valid, you know?
Yeah.
And then he goes, shout out Viola Davis keeping her paycheck. Why they got to slap her on Team Peacemaker though? So,
You
shout
know?
out to GalacticMrE. Those are all his notes. Again, we're going to have another video where we go more in depth. This one we kind of went in depth already, but there was a lot to say and a lot to talk about. But I would say the things I'm most excited for will probably be Superman, of course, because I think a good Superman movie is what all of us need. And I would say Superman, actually I put a tweet up, Superman, Lanterns, the Supergirl, just because of the comic itself. Paradise Lost, if it does take something from Historia, and then Swamp Thing if we get something Zatanna, and then Authority too because of Midnighter and Apollo. But
Yeah.
I think overall it's gonna be cool.
I'm optimistic. I mean, I trust James Gunn. He has not made something that I have not enjoyed yet, and I think he understands the task that he is dealt with and is going to handle this with as much care as possible. Also, in the video, he was saying how he's going to let pretty much all the writers and the directors that he's going to hire for these individual projects cook.
Yeah.
And that's like a big thing I really do care about, because I feel like all the superhero just nerdy things that you would know have like that director or writer's touch on it, you can tell, and usually those projects do better than the generic I'm gonna put my Disney
You can say the MCU template. That's
but yeah, for sure, like all the MCU like movies that I enjoy the most, or TV shows that I enjoy the most, feel like the people that are working on them, you know what I mean, are just a little bit different. So if we get essentially a whole superhero universe that has that feeling to it, I'm on board. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
and I think
like,
he saw that like coming on Guardians. Like I think they let him kind of do his own thing. But then he also saw how they were doing it. Maybe some other movies that they kind of had to follow a template.
Yeah. And it makes sense. You're telling a overarching story that's supposed to last 8 to 10 years, he said in the video.
Yeah.
That is hard as fuck to do. But at the same time, just let people cook. Let the fanboys cook.
And again, this isn't all of chapter 1. We're going to get more. So I assume Comic-Con will be the place. So that's like 6 months from now. So that's plenty of time to like get some finer details worked out, maybe get some actors casted, and then kind of go from there. So those were our thoughts on this new honestly, their new future, because if you think about it, a lot of time these movies start influencing the comics. And if some of these movies do well, we'll see. But let us know in the comments what movie you're looking forward to, what TV show you're looking forward to, maybe some of your dream projects. Like I said, for me, it would be Justice League International. Maybe like if it's Justice League Part 3 or 4 by that point, whatever. That'd be cool. Let us know. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting. We will be coming back with the Doom Patrol reactions. It has been canceled, so those are going to be pretty emotional, but we'll also have a discussion with E as well. We want to get his full thoughts on everything, and you can kind of hear his excitement or disappointment, because apparently E hates Supergirl. So we'll thank you guys for watching. Make sure you follow Jelani on his Twitter, on his Twitch. I guess you can check me out too if you like it, and follow E. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time with some more fun news. Maybe ? Chapter 2. Okay, bye.